Oh, there we go. Look at there.
All
We're
right.
streaming live.
Right.
Let,
Let
let,
me.
let, me, let me put on my earphones too.
Okay. Yeah. The confession. The,
So my mic sounds nice.
there's a delay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, look at that. Look at my headphones sound nice up in here.
Trying to see how I can.
And I have my notes in my phone because, yeah, so I can be prepared.
All right. Cool. I was on the actual website. So let me go to my channel. I haven't gone live on YouTube before. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
On to my page. Come on now. It's taking all day.
And then I'll just share from your Facebook page.
Yep. Yep. No.
Since mine is on some bullshit. Are we watching our language?
You just copy the URL.
You sent it to me in text or something?
I'm gonna send it to you here in a second.
Oh,
I'm
I
on.
thought you I
Yeah.
thought you said you did do it.
Oh no, no, no. I'm hold on. I'll send it to you.
Let me get my water over here.
Send it to your inbox.
Let's
There you
get
go. All right.
some.
Send it to your inbox.
Okay, got it. I'm gonna record. Do I want to record? Do we want to record?
Well, it'll record it on. Well, it'll be on my YouTube page, but you can. You can. And it'll be on Facebook. So, but
So I'll post in this group. Brief conversation between. Feel free to
one,
ask questions.
bear with us. We're getting our lives together over here.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, cool. What's going on, everybody? This is Politics 101 with Mark B and CP. CP, what they call her. Courtney Patterson, how you doing, ma'am?
I am good. We've had a very eventful last 4 days last week.
Yeah, there's been a couple things happen.
Little
One or
bit,
two
little
things.
something, little
Yeah,
something. Not
couple,
too much.
couple of little historic, little historic things happening. Man, the thing that trips me out about the election cycle is when it comes down to this part of it, you find usually the people who aren't really interested in politics, this is kind of when they're jumping on point. This is kind of
Yeah,
when they're like, oh, okay, so now who's running for the president? And who, in a normal cycle, we would have had uh, primaries where we had
right,
like five, six, seven different people all vying for the job. But the Democrats, in their infinite wisdom, decided they did not want to have primaries. Uh, and it worked to their detriment because Biden wasn't up to the task. We called it back in 2020 that okay, this we'll let Paw have it this go round because we don't want the other guy in there.
right.
But he got a little whiff of the presidency and was like, I ain't ready to let this thing go. So let me run for another term. And eventually it just got so bad that he had to go ahead and step aside, which is the noble thing to do. I'm glad he finally got there. Um, and I have decided not to be petty and not to remind people of all the folks who was trying to gaslight us into believing, he just had a bad night. It was just, so I decided to let it go. I'm not going to hold
Yeah,
on to
when Batman, aka George Clooney, he
it.
came out and said, "Yeah, had a little event, and that's not the Joe that I used to know." I was like, "Yeah, this," and I didn't watch the debate, so I
I
didn't,
did.
I didn't, I didn't even know how crazy really it honestly got,
It was
because
bad.
yeah,
It was
like
bad.
I heard, and then the memes came out, but like
Uh,
I didn't even need to watch the debates honestly to see there were times in
yeah,
conversations that I was just like, okay,
it was what I
okay,
thought it was
no,
going to be. It was
yeah,
what I thought it was going to. Like we knew. That's why, like when he ran the first time, he was not the same Joe Biden that had, was the
the VP,
VP for. Yeah, that wasn't him
yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
You could tell he was kind of slowing down, he was kind of gearing down, and it was like, okay, if our option if they refuse to let Bernie Sanders run, like they would rather drink cyanide than to let Bernie Sanders get the nomination, then okay, we have to choose between this guy he's starting to wind down or Trump. We're gonna choose the guy. We overwhelmingly chose the guy who's starting to wind down over Trump. But
and let's be honest and let's be real about like the Bernie Sanders, right?
yeah,
You know, like I know that a person that's really too much for the people is not
yeah,
going to be elected
no, they
president.
didn't want nothing about it. They didn't want nothing
Yeah,
about
yeah, because like
it.
it, you can't be too far left, and so I think that Bernie scares a lot of moderates, a lot of um, kind of centralists. He was too far left, and so he wouldn't have won. Honestly, he Bernie wouldn't have won. He wouldn't have won.
Yeah. I see. Here's the thing. I think that Trump was so unpopular that if there was ever a time that Bernie could have won, that would have been it.
But see,
I think he was just that unpopular.
I disagree. When Trump started to run, and he started to drop his ass, and he started to say things. I had conversations with people, and I'm not going to name any names, but
Mhm.
they were saying, "Oh, there's no way he can win. He's too far. Like he's saying too much stuff. There's no way that he can win." But you forget that there's a subset of America that felt quiet, felt pushed, that felt like they didn't have a voice for so long that
Yeah.
he became their voice. And
Yeah.
those people showed up in overwhelming numbers and
Yeah.
they voted their voice in. So it I if you've been black in America long enough, you can totally 100% see why a Donald Trump character would become president at some point. He represents the part of America that isn't great,
Yeah.
and it's it's not surprising. Like,
Yeah.
and me, you've had several conversations about this this bizarreness of people who support Donald Trump and how different that is from like the Republican Party and the Republicans that we grew up with. I mean, it used to really be a time where you could be friends with somebody that was a Republican and just be like, we just disagree on policy. And
Yeah.
like I remember growing up watching uh what was it, Family Ties, and
Yeah.
how uh
Alex P. Keaton.
Alex
Keaton.
P. Keaton, right? And
Yeah.
his whole stick was being this staunch Republican and just a stiff Republican guy, but you still liked Michael P. Keaton. You still liked him. You still liked his character. You liked Michael J. Fox, even though that was his role.
Yeah.
That that type of Republican image and idea is not that's not what we have today. It's there's no more. I mean, I have friends that I love that I can say, oh, I don't like this about them and still love them, and that I can still
Yeah.
correct them and say, hey, you're not. That's not the way to go. But now it's like with Trump, they justify even the most bizarre things that they wouldn't even accept from their own family members. I can guarantee
Yeah.
you, if a Trump supporter had a family member that had 34 felony charges that knocked on his door and said, "Hey, can I stay here and stay the night?" They would not let
No.
the not one felony, let alone 34.
They
Um,
disown him.
yeah, quick, fast, and in a
Yeah.
hurry. And
Yeah.
it's like you make every type of excuse for this person. It's okay to be a fan of somebody. It's okay to 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 even say, I don't like this, that they did this. I wish they would have. It's okay to challenge that person, right? It's not
Hmm.
okay to give somebody a God complex. And that's what I feel like we see more of. And I think that the Alex P. Keaton Republicans are tired of the MAGA. Alex P.
They are.
Keaton, those are like the Mitch Romneys. Those are the Alex P. Keatons. You know,
Yeah. The
even
Michael
got
Steele.
yeah, and God
Mhm.
rest his soul, John McCain. Those are the Alex P. Keatons.
Yeah.
You know, those are the Republicans that,
Fiscal conservatives. Yeah.
yeah, those are the
Yeah.
ones that you can still have coffee with, joke with about their khaki pants and loafers, and everybody goes
Hmm.
home. Those are the
Yeah.
ones that we grew up knowing. This is not that Republican Party at all.
There's a difference between the Donald Trump Republicans and um, the Republican Party that we know, right, or that we've known. And fiscal conservatism is different because Donald Trump's never been a fiscal conservative. He's never been that. So the fact that he ran on the Republican ticket and has gotten the base to be as anti-Republican as possible. Like Republican Party is supposed to be against
Big
big
government.
government,
Hmm.
but they are willing to tell women what to do with their vaginas. They're willing to tell people what they need to do as far as their own health care and things like that. So that they've gotten away from that because they've gotten more into like social issues and stuff like that. Now uh, they want to force people to align themselves with their view of Christianity that they don't even follow. Like
Right.
there's no there's no standard of what a Christian is anymore because they can't stick to a standard because their guy Trump won't fit into any of the standards that they do. So if a Christian is somebody who can spout off scriptures right and left, he can't do that. If a Christian is somebody who stays faithful to his wife, and he can't do that. If a Christian is somebody who is morally chaste and doesn't speak about women in a overtly sexual way, he can't do that. None
I
of the
mean,
things that
even
he can't
even
do any of those things.
even I just mentioned about, like, in Proverbs it talks about kind of the language and how you speak to
Hmm.
people, and you're not supposed to speak out of anger.
Yeah.
Not even a full 24 hours after Kamala Harris uh, was endorsed for Biden and pretty much on this trail of being president. Here he comes with just
Oh yeah.
insult,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this is your king.
Look, and
This
then
is your
when you press a Christian, not even a Christian, when you press an evangelical about it, then they'll say, "Well, haven't we all sinned?" I'm like, "Get the heck out of here, man!" Like it's a difference between having a lifestyle that promotes iniquity and sin and somebody who occasionally has it or fights through it or is struggling to deal with it, but does the best that they can. And when you don't, when you have that false equivalency, then you can put Trump in any kind of. He could be Bishop
yeah,
Trump
yeah,
as far as they're concerned, and he could be Apostle Trump going and starting. He's already got Bibles for him, so now he can have Trump churches popping up all over the place. You have to pay to get inside though. Like you got to
right,
pay.
right.
You pay your tithes up front. We don't take tithes later on. You pay them up front. You
And
know what I mean? It's
the crazy thing is about that, though, like, I see the justification from Christians about Trump's, the way that he presents, and hear the same thing. We're all sinners, and yeah, whatever. And I
yeah,
agree. We are all sinners. Like
that is
Biggie
a fact.
said, born sinner. The opposite of we
Hmm.
are all sinners. That's a fact.
Hmm.
But why is that level of grace and justification for wrongdoing given to him? But when
Mm.
it comes to, like, I remember being in my previous church Facebook group on a Facebook page, and
Hmm.
somebody said about George Floyd during COVID
Mm.
that he deserved to die because of his background. And I
Mm.
guarantee you that person is a
Mm.
Trump voter who will vote for Trump and justify Trump's behavior because
Mm.
I guess he's running on a Christian ticket or a Christian idea.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to understand how you have that level of heightened forgiveness for this man every single second of every single day. But when it comes to a George Floyd,
Mm.
it yeah, he deserved to die because of his
Well,
background.
some people call it heightened forgiveness. Other people call it idolatry. But let
And, and, and I'm
since we,
and I'm other people.
yeah, I'm on them other people.
I'm other
So
people.
right. So so at this point, I feel like um, there's no point in people who know that Donald Trump is a racist, who know that he's not a good executive, who know that he is not he doesn't have the disposition to be a good president over the United States, the whole country. I think it's right now it behooves us to focus on the rest of us because the majority of the country does not like Donald Trump. That's
I agree.
why Biden got like killed him in the uh,
Popular.
in popular vote.
Hmm.
Um, People didn't vote for Biden as much as they voted against Trump,
Against Trump,
and
right?
I
Agreed.
believe that that one respect to Biden because somebody had to run, and he did it, and he beat Trump, and he helped us to recover from uh, COVID, the COVID crisis that Trump made worse and everything like that. But and to that end, I feel like we should reflect on Biden's record a little bit. Like I don't want to keep dumping on him because like these folks make me feel like I'm almost like half a Trump supporter. The way they have me dumping on Biden, and I don't want to dump on Biden. He did what he needed to do. He was not a super left leaning Democrat. Barack Obama was a centrist Democrat, and Joe Biden is to the right of him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we didn't expect progressive policies or anything like that. But I do want to talk about like there were some things that I wanted to give him credit for. I pulled up some stuff that
And I will add that Joe Biden was a stop the bleed. He
yes,
he was a stop the bleed.
yes, he was. He was somebody. He was supposed to be a transitional president. He was
Right.
supposed to just he was supposed to get the keys from Trump and hand the keys off to somebody else. But then he tasted a little too much of that presidential power and didn't want to let it go. Um,
Yeah,
so
ego's a hell of a drug.
it is, and like I get it. A lot of us, who have elderly like loved ones, parents or whatever, we we understand they get to an age where they still feel like they can do it. They still feel like they could beat you in a foot race. They still feel like they could knock you upside your head. They still feel like they could build a house if they need all that stuff. And one slip and they're gonna break their hip and be down for the rest of
Right,
their life. Like
right,
we know,
right.
but they don't get it. So we understand it, and we wanted him to ride out with dignity, and he made that difficult because he was getting gassed up to stay for another term, and so they had to get a little bit loud. They were still being pretty respectful though, like he's I'm not stepping down. I'm not going anywhere. Then they were like, maybe you want to like take a second, take a second.
I think it was Jill. I think I
Jill,
think I think
she was
lightweight
gassing them
Jill.
up.
No, I don't think she was gassing him up. I think Jill was the one that made that last like
Finally
just
made them.
yeah,
Yeah,
just let it go, Joe. It's just come
it's
home.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
just
think
come home.
hopefully but see, they was talking crazy about her, saying like she was the one putting the battery in his back, and I'm like, I hope not, because she's younger than him. She kind of like has more of her ear to the ground than he does because she's still practicing. She's not just like she didn't stop her practice and go on. She was still practicing position, right?
Well, even if she was putting the battery in his back, ain't that what your woman is supposed to do?
No, y'all supposed to shoot it straight. That's what y'all supposed to do. Don't
Ain't
have
we
me out
supposed
here
to say
looking stupid.
you can do it? You can, come
No,
on, Joe.
no,
You
don't have me
ride
out.
that bike.
Don't have me out here looking stupid in front of all these people. You know what I'm saying? You supposed to tell me to get my tie together and all that shirt don't go with them pants. And no, you can't be president no more. It's time for you to come home. That's her. And look, hopefully it was her because they was talking crazy, saying like she was the one that was like keeping him going. Like she enjoyed the perks of being the first lady. She wasn't like she didn't step down from, and that I respected. I was cool with that because a lot of times first ladies kind of sacrifice
Yeah,
um,
their
their
own career.
yeah, their careers and their brilliance to live this life with their husband. And she was like, "No, I'm still, be a practicing physician." And it was great to see. I think that allowed her to be more aware because a lot of politicians are in their own bubble and
Hmm.
they don't recognize like what the rest of the country is saying. They're around people who are so enamored by their position or something like that that they won't tell them, what they need to hear. And I hope that she was the one who was like, "Look, it's okay because there's a lot going on. You lost your first wife and you lost your son. Your other son, he's struggling in life too. Come on, sit this one out. Let
Yeah,
the B team come in. and not no disrespect to Kamala. I won't say she's like the B team per se. If she would have been funded as well as Biden was, then she might have gotten the Democratic nod in 2020. But you know,
I don't think she would have got it. Even and there's still part of me that feels this way, that like,
Mhm.
if, even though I definitely in the last few days, last 48 hours especially, the tide has switched.
Yeah,
And
it has.
I honestly wholeheartedly think that we can win this.
Yeah, yeah,
More so than I believed 2 weeks ago with Biden. I was just like,
yeah. No,
I was ready to
I
check
was
out.
out. I
Yeah,
was out.
yeah.
Like
I,
we talked about it. I
yeah,
couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I could not feel the love of Biden.
I was checked out, but I have become re-energized, and
Yeah.
I think that Kamala can. I really do think that she can pull this off. I believe she
I,
can
I
pull this
think
off.
I think that Biden. So my issues were a little more personal um, than like the whole wide country, right? Because I sent him into office to get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act done. I sent him into office to get to get uh, 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 um, the Voting Rights Act done. Those are the two things that I wanted to see. Because he
Hmm.
told me that I wasn't black if I didn't vote for him. That's what he said.
Right.
He said that to me.
So
So
you just want to solidify your blackness,
yeah,
you know.
I felt some
Well,
type of way. So I made sure.
I'm trying to hold on to my black job. So
Yeah,
that's where I'm
well,
at right now.
I got some Mexican and Puerto Rican friends that I keep my good eye on
Right. Because
because
they coming for
just
your black job.
just to make sure
Just a
that they
little
ain't coming
bit.
from. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I have to
Hector,
I have to stiff
Heck,
arm all of my Hispanic friends too, because I know
yeah.
y'all trying to take my black job.
Hector, Manuel, I got my eye on y'all. You know what I mean? Like, just in case. I know we grew up together and all, but you know, never
Right. Yeah,
know. But
you gotta protect that black job.
well, you know what I'm saying? Like Trump put it out there. But I think that like Biden did a good job for the country. I can't take that away from him. I think that there was like Republicans always run like the debt into the ground and have horrible policies that affect the average working class in a way that's detrimental. And then when Democrats come into office to clean it up, they always blame the Democrats for the the issues that trickled down from the previous administration. Like
And that's
we would have
I was gonna
we
say
would
to
have
your
been out
point.
of COVID if Trump wouldn't have disbanded the pandemic relief team that Obama put together. But he did. So now Biden had to come and fix that up. What were we
I was gonna
saying?
I was gonna say to your point, the Economist had an article where it was saying that statistically it is shown that the economy actually does better under Democratic policies than it does under
Yep.
Republican policies. And
Yep.
this trickle down theory of, if we give all these tax cuts and tax breaks to corporations, that money
Yeah.
is going to trickle down to the rest of the
It's never
economy
worked.
and make us all better. It never ever works.
Yeah.
And I am one of those people
That's
that
the
all
Ronald Reagan
yeah,
trickle down economic theory.
Reaganomics, and then, like, I'm one of those
Hmm.
people that I just kind of feel like people spend so much time discussing and talking about like social welfare, your food
Hmm.
stamps, your Section 8, all those types of things, which that is such a small percentage of where our tax money goes to. The majority of
Yep.
our tax money goes to defense, but
Yep.
they harp on that small amount, but then they totally ignore corporate
Welfare.
welfare.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
like, I seen this video where this guy was talking about how upset he was that his coffee was now he got a milkshake that was like $12, and he was
Yeah.
blaming Biden for his $12 milkshake because of inflation. And
Yeah.
it's like, things are higher in cost. Some things are higher in cost, not because of inflation, but because of corporate greed. You have CEOs making millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Yep.
And they have
During COVID.
during COVID, and they have workers not making anywhere near a livable wage. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, put the blame where the blame belongs. Yes, inflation is a thing. It's an economic principle. Inflation is
Yeah.
going to happen. It is a thing. But some of
Yeah.
the stuff, like a $12 milkshake, has nothing to do with
Yeah.
inflation. It is
It's the
definitely
rate.
rate.
The inflation happens, and I think people understand that inflation happens. It's the rate at which inflation happens, and what what Republicans are disingenuous about is the fact that a lot of the inflation that we have is due to corporate greed. Like they don't have to charge you $12 for that milkshake. They could charge you $7 for it, but they know that you'll pay 12.
Okay, 12. Right, right.
So they're going to charge you 12, and then they're going to take all the proceeds and they're going to walk past their employees that's doing the extra work, and they're going to hand the money over to their investors. Or they'll buy back stocks to inflate their portfolios on the stock market. But they'll tell you, oh, well, it's a supply chain issue. Oh, well, gas prices are so high, we had to pass on the cost to our customers and stuff like that, which is a lie. And look, these are big issues, right? These are issues that affect everybody, no matter what race or what age you are in the country. Um, I feel like everybody should be aware of those issues, but they should also keep in mind the micro issues, the issues that affect their community. So when my issue with Biden, the reason why I couldn't vote for him wasn't just because he's decrepit. Not it wasn't just because he looked like a crypt keeper. That
Yeah,
wasn't.
y'all not. I mean, hey,
Let me be respectful. I'm sorry.
you
Let me
remember,
back
you know
it
what
down.
that just made me think about what he looked like? Do you
Okay.
remember it was a comedian that used to have puppets? I want to say he used to run with like Jeff
Uh,
Foxworthy in them, and it was like a
okay.
grumpy old
Yeah.
man that he had. What? That just popped up into my
Yeah.
head. That's who Biden looked
That-
like these days.
it does. I'm trying to. There was some cartoon I cannot remember where they were talking about where he used to sing this song, the old something ain't what used to be, ain't what used to, and the dude sounded old in the mud. That's how Biden sounded to me. So I'm like, come on, man, you can't be the leader of the free world. You know what I mean? Stop it.
Oh,
So
I don't even want it. The point went never to clown Biden like that, but yeah.
no, I'm being disrespectful. Let me back it down. I apologize.
Right.
That
We're
wasn't
supposed to go back and talk
right,
about the
right.
good things that the
We're
man
supposed to
did
move on.
while he was in office.
He did some good stuff while he was in office.
And
He
this is
did.
this is the Biden in memoriam.
Yes,
Let's
this is
talk
not
about the good
the
things.
it's not the Biden roast. This is the Biden. So okay, so he did lower the cost of some drugs. I think insulin was one of them. He did do that. Let's see.
And, and,
Uh,
and just to add in that Madam BP um,
mhm.
worked on getting that done as well,
Yep.
lowering those
Yep.
those
Yep. When they're
pharmaceutical
saying
costs.
she doesn't have any experience, she was part
Yeah,
of that also.
the one that hasn't done anything for the
Right, right,
last
right.
4 years. That
Um,
Kamala Harris, yeah.
that one, not
Hmm.
Kamala Harris. So
Yeah,
we can say
that
that.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah, 11 million jobs created, nearly 11 million jobs. 17 states now have unemployment rates at or below 3%. So he's doing that. Let's see. Reopened all K through 12 schools. 79% of adults fully vaccinated. We would keep in mind he was fighting an uphill battle because the previous administration, who was vaccinated, was telling people to not trust the vaccinations.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah.
while at the same time rushing people back to work so that they can infect other people. So he made it so that now people get COVID and they're like, well, I had to sit at home for a couple of days. I got COVID. It's not as big a deal now. It's a flu now.
Right.
Meanwhile, we have friends who we lost
Family
from COVID.
members,
Yeah,
loved ones.
family members
Yeah.
and yeah, that we lost where the name COVID was like a death sentence, and we were scared to the mug. Like if you don't remember what it was like in 2020, it was worse than the AIDS epidemic,
Hmm.
because at least the AIDS epidemic, if you wasn't having gay sex, you thought you was pretty good for the most part
Right.
until it started spreading into the heterosexual community. But it still was like, okay, as long as you ain't out there clapping cheeks, you should be good. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Stay
Yeah.
faithful to your wife because it's the ninja out there. So,
Dang,
but
what
with COVID,
did Magic just take a stray?
look, Magic knew what he was doing back then. Yeah. Look, we ain't gonna play games. Magic knew what he was doing back then.
Magic
You
just
know,
called a stray.
he
Okay.
look,
So
Magic, look, he was out there. He was in LA. He was doing his thing. You know what I mean? But we knew that for the most part, actually, if it wasn't for Magic, then we wouldn't have known that you could actually be clapping cheeks heterosexually and still get it. Because Easy E got it, and we was like, oh, that dude, he probably was, what I
well,
mean? We don't know. If it was
well,
just one person,
well,
one superstar with him.
I think what the another big change, just a small segue about the AIDS epidemic, was when Ryan White,
Yep. Yep.
when he was diagnosed with AIDS, and it was like
Yeah.
he wasn't
Do
out
a
there
blood
doing
transfusion.
anything. It was just from a blood transfusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that was a turning point of waking
Yeah.
people up too. Like,
I think all of it happened like those three individuals, Ryan White, Easy E, and Magic Johnson, because we could not question the one thing you couldn't question was Magic Johnson's sexuality. We knew he was out there. We knew that he was getting girls. And
yeah, yeah,
Easy E,
yeah,
we knew he was getting women too. And then Ryan White, who wasn't even out there like that, he wasn't even an adult. So those three things kind of made it so, oh, nobody's safe. But COVID was still worse because it was taking away the most vulnerable people. Like, like that's like going around and like throat kicking elderly people while you walking. Like that's how like indiscriminate and evil
yeah,
it was.
yeah,
So and to have somebody at the helm, because you never can uh tell when some kind of event like that is going to happen. That's why you have to have a responsible person and holding the reins of the country. And Trump was not that. Um, if there was no like Hurricane Katrina event or COVID event, then Trump might have been able to ride through his presidency just being a jerk, right?
hmm
But
hmm
when you're irresponsible and there's finally a situation that happens that requires responsibility, then you being irresponsible comes at the detriment of everybody in the country, and that's why Biden stepping in was very important because regardless of what you feel about his track record as a legislator, he kept a steady hand and he helped the country to recover from COVID, and he boosted vaccinations. Sometimes in boosting vaccinations, when you're the leader, sometimes you have to make the tough call of you can't come back to work unless you get vaccinated.
right,
I'm
right,
infringing on your freedoms to ensure that the majority of the country is safe. And
right.
I talk to my son about that all the time. When it comes to politics, there's
The
always a
greater
balance.
good. Hmm.
Yeah, but there's a balance between freedom and security, and you can't
Right,
have all of one. Because if you have all the freedom, you're never going to be secure. And if you
right.
have
Because
all,
I'm
you
a
can't have
speed demon. So if
right.
if it wasn't for speed limits,
Yeah.
the girl would be out here just
100,
reckless.
miles per hour. Yeah.
Right,
Tearing up all the
right,
drivers.
right. So there's
Yeah.
things that are in place, like to your point, that are put to to for the good of the all, for the good of the collective,
Yeah.
and
That's why
and
we have rules.
and that goes like even deeper into like the difference in voting. as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I believe in the collective. There's a lot
Yep.
of things that may be good for me just individually, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's not just me. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even when, and I know we're going to touch on this later in the conversation, but I get so tight when people say that they're voting a certain way because of a tax cut or the economy and how it would affect just them personally, negating all the other issues, all the other things
Yeah.
that exist. And so for
Yeah.
people to have this privilege to be able to say, I'm only worried about this tax cut. And many a times the people that are talking about this tax cut that they feel like they're going to get, they're not even in the tax bracket that would
He ain't
really
even talking to
truly
y'all.
honestly
Yeah.
benefit from the tax cut. You're
Right.
not you're not you're not you're not even in that club.
He ain't even talking to you.
You're
You
not even
how you gonna get mad from outside the club?
right.
Like
You
how
can't even
you?
get in. You can't get
Yeah. Yeah.
you're talking about a tax cut that tax break.
That's
You're
other
not
people's money you're talking about.
you're
Yeah.
not
That ain't
there.
that ain't even your money.
That's not your
That,
tax bracket, bro. Like
that's other people's money. Yeah. No.
you need to keep your interest within your tax bracket, homie. That's where
Yeah.
your interest needs to be, not where you
Act,
want your tax bracket
right.
to be, where it currently is.
Act your wage. Act your
Right.
wage. In other words. Yeah. No. But so for that reason, I give Joe Biden credit for stabilizing, and since like Democrats have to play that role. Um, whenever, and it's because the last two Republicans that have won the presidency were horrible managers, right? They were horrible executives. They were not good at making decisions that were best for the country. They were good at marketing, but they weren't good at making actual critical decisions. And that's George Bush, and that's Donald Trump. And the difference between the two is George Bush actually loves the country.
Mm-hmm.
He actually believes in democracy and actually believes in the Constitution. And Trump doesn't
Mm-hmm.
believe in any of those things. So because of that, um, Biden Biden will always have a favorable view from most people because he beat Trump and he stabilized the country after we were like the depression that we were in because of COVID. Um, like people are still recovering mentally, but we're given the freedom to do that because people aren't dying of COVID at such a rapid rate. I'm talking about people in the healthcare industry um, who who've been in like traumatized by seeing people die alone because
Mm-hmm.
of and you have to he didn't have the level of callousness that Trump had, and because he didn't, and because you could actually believe um, that Biden cared about people. That's the one thing that he was good at is he would look you in your eye, he would shake your hand, he would make you feel like he actually cared. And I'm not going to say that he didn't care. I'm going to say that he was good at empathizing with people, and that's a character trait that shows him being a good man. And I'm glad that to transition, he eventually showed the courage to step down. He got there eventually. It took him a minute. He got there eventually though, and recognized that this thing is bigger than him. And I think that people have to um, people have to respect the fact and not try to paint the false narrative that people were pushing him out because he was unpopular or because he had a bad debate. That's so disingenuous and it is disrespectful to the intelligence of the common voter because you have people in the Democratic Party that are going to vote blue no matter who. And you have
Mm-hmm.
people in the Republican Party that are going to vote red. I don't know the rhyme that they use for that one. Vote red no matter who's dead. I don't know. Whatever they say, they they go they gonna vote red no matter what. But then most of the country is independent. And
Mhm.
those are the voters that you're trying to get from one side. And those are very informed voters because they have to be informed voters in order to decide what side of the aisle they're going to be on. And it's disrespectful to be like they don't know what they're talking about. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I do think that there was a bit of a push, though, for Biden to go, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I think I don't think it was 100% just him leaving on his own volition. I do think that there was an urgence in conversations about him being able to carry on these next 4 years. And I think that if it wasn't for those rumblings and those conversations, I don't think he would necessarily had dropped out because he's done it so close to uh the election time that if it
Mm-hmm.
was about him making the decision totally 100% off his own, he would have done this months ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't just start declining,
Mm-hmm.
and God bless him. I don't and I don't necessarily like some of the jokes that really go in about his mental health or his
Mm-hmm.
ability, because we're all going to get there one day. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're not, none of us is going to be as sharp uh,
No.
in the future that we are today. So I think that we
No.
need to be respectful for our 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 elderly
That's true.
community and watch our mouth when we say certain things, because those people have
That's true.
gone through things and been through things. So,
Yeah. That's
but
true.
I
That's true.
I, I absolutely think that there was some inner workings of the Democratic Party that was just like, I think there was a push, and
I, so
I
here's the
don't know.
question though:
Yeah,
Is the put was the like was the push because the ask was ignored, um, and the push was necessary, or was the push just because people were flexing their political power, right? Like if you got a 78-year-old grandfather who likes to drive, but he likes to drive on the wrong side of the street and he get pulled over I don't know how many times, and the police always got to take his keys from him and then call you to come pick him up. Like at some point, you got to take his keys, right? He you
yeah,
can't let him
agreed.
drive, right?
And
So
that's what I think it was. I think that there were members of the Democratic Party, the the leaders in the Democratic Party, that had to take Biden's keys. I don't think that he just freely gave up the keys. So I have a mixed thought on him being a courageous and a hero for doing it. I'm glad that he finally came to his senses and decided to do it. But I
yeah,
can't necessarily say that I feel 100% that it was just him saying, this is the right thing for me to
yeah,
do. I think he got there, but I think
yeah.
that there had to be conversations with him to get him there, because he was
Well,
still saying a couple of weeks ago, I'm fine. I can do this. I'm good. I'm in good health. My health is fine. I'm okay. He was
it
still
was
telling
one
us this
bad
a
night.
couple. Yeah, he was still telling us this up to a couple of weeks ago. And
Yeah,
so I think, like I said, when George Clooney said what he said, and then it was reports that Barack had conversations. They never said exactly what Barack said, so I guess it's speculation. But
yeah,
that he had conversations, and that's when we got the announcement that he was not going to go out
yeah.
for
Move forward.
re-election.
So I feel like um, just the fact of us knowing that those conversations took place was a light push. That was them like that was them saying, all right, now look, we tried to talk to you on the hush hush a couple times, and you was like telling us to get off your lawn. We got to be a little bit louder, but we're trying to be respectful. We're still trying to respect your position and what you've done for this country, but we're gonna get louder and louder. And that's when you start seeing people come out and saying, he needs to step down. Like, because that's political suicide. A lot when you're talking about the incumbent president, most people, politicians are not courageous like that, especially in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most are not going to come out and be like, yeah, I think he's past his prime or something like that, unless they have assurances that they're not going to face political repercussions. I think like I, I think yes, he was kind of pushed um, out, but I think I look at it like athlete. Sometimes athletes don't know when they're done, and
Yeah.
they'll keep playing until everybody's faster than them, everybody's stronger than them, and then finally the game makes them retire. And it's not just the age. Like this is more gaslighting that places like The View and other places were doing to people, like saying that, well, age is just a number. Age is his age isn't. His age was like difficult because he in particular was dealing with mental decline. We saw it. To pretend as if he wasn't is disrespectful and disingenuous. So I think that a lot of us will get to or have gotten to points where we thought that we had it a little bit longer than what we did. Like, as a father, you got sons, and your sons may want to test you. They think they ready, and when they a little bit younger and they not ready, you able to use that dad strength, get them up off of you. They don't know just how close they was to being able to take you down, but you know because you had to use every ounce of strength you had in order to win. And then there's a moment where you got to let them have it. Like you can't like suplex your son no more. He'll have you in the dirt, and nobody wants that. So you have to retire that part of yourself. And Biden probably was not going to do that anytime soon. And it didn't matter how bad his performances were going to be. It doesn't matter how many like flubs that he did. He was not going to step down. So somebody had to be like, look, it's time, you know. And luckily, he had a VP that the only thing that she lacked was national political experience, and she was gaining that steadily. The people who are saying that she didn't have a background. These people cannot be Trump supporters. Like you don't get to support Trump and then claim that Kamala Harris doesn't have enough experience. You don't get to do both of those. You got to pick something because Kamala Harris comes in with way more experience as an executive than Donald Trump had, or that Donald Trump has or had before when he was running. So
And to your point, because I made this point to somebody else too, she has
mhm,
more experience than our freshman Senator Obama had when he ran for the presidency.
yes, it did.
So
It
so
does.
it's the other part of all of this that burns me up just a tad bit is these conversations be around her qualifications. And
Hmm.
and as a black woman, I take an exceptional peeve to is because
Hmm.
we are always it's the idea that we're always DEI hires as if we're not qualified for the roles and the positions that we are put into, that we
Yeah,
somehow got lucky and we filled some type of quota. That woman is qualified on paper. If we
very
don't even
qualified.
talk about her record, if we just talk about her resume on paper, she is qualified to do the job.
Very
She
qualified.
has she she has the political background, she has the legal background, she has the understanding of the law. She is qualified. And if
Yeah.
you put her up against again Donald Trump and
Hmm.
Obama at the time that he ran, she is overqualified. If those two
Yeah.
were qualified just with what they had at the table when they ran for president. So
I
this
think
whole
when
thing about her qualifications is complete BS, and I do feel like it is founded in misogyny and racism.
yeah, more racism than misogyny. But both also. I feel like one, we have to call everybody who calls somebody a DEI hire a racist. They all are. Whenever somebody says that somebody is a DEI hire, they are racist. They're basically calling them an N word. Watch my mouth for the YouTube algorithms. But they are basically calling them an N word with the hard ER because they don't know what DEI is any more than they know what the definition of racism or the definition of woke, right? So they use the word woke and they use DEI to supplement them using racial
So,
epithet.
right. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
somebody like I refuse to surrender the word woke. I refuse. I'm
Oh
not going
yeah,
to
me
surrender it.
too. I'm not.
I'm going to continue to use woke in its proper context, and I'm going to continue to talk crazy about people who use the word woke in any kind of sense of our description of ethnicity. Same thing with DEI, and the fact that all these businesses are getting rid of their DEI programs says a lot more about uh, the motivations that those businesses had and when they first started those programs than anything else. But we have to, we as Black people have to make sure that we protect certain things, that we demand certain kinds of respect. And Kamala Harris being it being said that she was a DEI hire, that should affect negatively as far as their job is concerned, or as far as their business is concerned. Because if she's not prepared, if she doesn't have the background necessary to execute this office, then nobody has. Because Congress is full of failed lawyers all up and through the hallways of Congress. She was
Mm-hmm.
actually a successful one. So that means that she understands law and understands policy, and that she is an expert in it. So nobody can be more qualified than that. Um, that being said, there's a lot of lies that are because the Republicans are starting to pivot now because they were prepared for a Joe Biden that could only stay on talking points, that couldn't fact check because his brain couldn't flip between talking points and fact checking at the same time. So there's I think I sent this to you earlier. There's Time did fact check of some lies that were basically put out there
Yeah.
about Kamala Harris. And one claim is that she is not an American citizen, therefore cannot serve as commander in chief, even though she was born in Oakland.
In Oakland. She the Bay. She the girl from the Bay.
She's from the Bay, Oakland, California, 1964. October 20th, she was born. They have a copy of her birth certificate. So she was born
It's
in Oakland, California.
it's funny, and I mentioned this to you earlier. How there's a lot of parallels between what they're saying about what they said about Barack and
Mm-hmm.
what they're saying about Kamala Harris.
Yep.
It's the accusations of them being uh, from here, and then
Yep.
it's the accusation of them not being black, which is crazy. It's crazy, and
Mm-hmm.
although I get it, I get that black people want a bliggity black person in office. We want
Super duper black.
somebody. We want somebody that can say there ain't no future in your fronting. If I
Mm-hmm.
was president, I would paint the
With
White
that
House black. That's
with
what
that
we do.
dashiki on.
Right.
That's what we want. Yeah.
That is what we want. I would
Afro
love
picking
that.
ahead.
I would love
Yeah.
that. I would
Yeah. Yeah.
love a black Bush, like Dave Chappelle talked about. I would love a black ass president. I would.
Yeah. Not
But the
gonna happen.
reality of having a black ass president
Mhm.
It's not going to happen. And I think that also as
Right.
Black people, we have to be careful about how we talk about Blackness when that Blackness is different than our Blackness. Now
Yeah.
there's levels, right?
There.
You know,
Yep.
there's people who are Black but don't have Black interests at heart, and I'm okay
And
with
there's
having
someone. Yeah,
right.
Scott.
So
Yeah.
they're Black. You can't deny
Yeah.
that they're Black, and
Mm.
they have a different type of Blackness, but they don't have
Yeah.
Black interests at heart. And so
They're
to
not
me,
like
that's
us.
different. Right,
Yeah.
right. And they're trying to paint Kamala as the same as them, and she's not. Is she
No.
perfect? No. Has she done things that I don't like? Absolutely. Could she have done things differently in the past? Definitely so. But it's like
Mhm.
all of the people that are judging some of these things, they're judging it based off of a lack of full information and total information. They're going off
Mhm.
of things they've heard on YouTube, on TikTok, and
Memes.
yeah, all of this misinformation. And I've seen some of the clip of Win with Black Men, and one of the things they talked about is the misinformation. And I've read some articles about how susceptible that the Black community is to misinformation, and
Yep.
so we have to be careful. In the Bible, it talks about like protecting your heart, protecting your mind, putting on the shit, the helmet out. We have to do that when
Yeah.
it comes to this information that we're receiving, because I don't care whether you're a man or a woman. If you're Black, you're emotional. And I don't
Yes.
say that in the standpoint of like you can't have emotions, but we have we have a history of being beat down and downtrodden. We have PTSD is in our printed in our DNA. So we are very easily triggered by things that seems to attack us as Black people as a whole. But I
Yep.
just want us to be more mindful and do more research when it comes to having these conversations. You can't, uh, I have a conversation with a friend that I do respect, and
Mhm.
we've gone at each other, but he he's he said, well, people in LA said that she was brutal, as a prosecutor, and I'm like, she wasn't even a prosecutor in LA. She was a prosecutor in San Francisco. She was nowhere near LA. So it's like,
Yeah.
where are we getting our pieces of info, or where are we getting our pieces of information from? Like this whole
Yeah.
thing where she was putting thousands and thousands of Black men in jail over marijuana.
Yeah.
When I first heard, I was like, dang, Kamala, like, word, that's what you were doing. And then to come to find
Mhm.
out that wasn't the case. That wasn't the story. There
Yeah.
was more to it. And so
Yeah.
it's like, we did she do some things as a prosecutor that if I was a prosecutor when it came to Black people that I would not do? Yes. Do I feel like she targeted Black people with some of her policies? Absolutely not. But what
No.
we do know is that whatever policies that are put into place, especially when it comes to policing, the effect is always worse on Black people
Right.
than it is, even if it affects everybody negatively, it's going to affect Black people worse, just
Yeah.
because of where we are. Like, even going back to the economy, if the economy is bad
Mhm.
for everybody, it's even worse for Black people.
Right. Yep.
If the healthcare industry sucks, it's even worse for Black people. Like, you look at insulin,
Yep.
Black
Yeah.
people and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sugar. So
Losing our
it,
feet and our ankles and
yeah,
everything. Yeah.
yeah. And so I think, and I keep saying this, and I made a post about it earlier. Let's like people for the facts, and let's dislike them for the facts. That
Yeah.
makes you a respectful person to me. When you
Yeah.
like and dislike based on facts.
Yeah.
When you like it, when you dislike and it's not any facts, you're a hater.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a
That's
hater.
basically that's the
Yeah.
definition of
So it's, again, we could talk about the things, and I think that we should. I think we should definitely have conversations about things about Kamala that we don't like, that we would like to challenge her on, that we would like to get a clearer stance on. And we definitely need to have those conversations. That's the kind of conversations we should have of all of our politicians. Those are not the
Yeah.
conversations that they have for Trump. They don't have the conversations about,
Mhm.
yeah, I wish he wouldn't do this. Yeah, I don't like he does that. And
Yeah.
so that's why those conversations to me are disingenuous. But when we can have conversations and say, Kamala has done a lot of great things. She's done
Yes.
things in the office. I put a list of all of the things that she's done in office, including
Mhm.
co-authoring the George Floyd Act that was passed
Mhm.
by the House, but is still waiting for the Senate to do something on.
Yeah.
Um,
And and the border bill that they had together, and I think it passed the House, and then it died in the Senate because Trump told Republicans that he didn't want them to pass the border bill because he wanted to run on it.
yeah,
So anybody who's upset about the border and the border crisis can thank Trump for telling Republicans in the Senate
pause.
to not pass. So, I think that Black people do not have, we cannot afford to be um, emotional when it comes to our politics. We have to be objective. Like, we can't wait for the politician that we like. We have to leverage our vote based off of what works in our best interests. Um, that's why we can't be loyal to any party. Killer Mike said one time, because it was Candace Owens and I
Tip.
believe it was Tip, and he said it sounded like both of y'all fighting over who got the best mask.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. Because if you, one, you cannot be foolish enough to believe that Republicans who are pro business and give tax breaks to the wealthiest Americans uh, are in favor of uplifting Black people, right? And you can't also be foolish enough to believe that all this time Democrats been trying to get Black people more rights and they've been trying real hard, but those doggone
Just
Republicans, they
oh
always, they're tricksters. They always
yeah.
trick us in the end. No,
We were
no, you
close. We almost
yeah,
had it. Yeah.
almost there.
We,
No,
al-
no,
we
you
almost
can't.
had that voting rights bill passed.
Yeah, almost. We
We
were
almost
almost.
did it.
Can't do it. Like you can't be foolish enough to believe that now. So now, one, I need people to apologize to Ice Cube because when Ice Cube was talking about, I'm talking to whoever want to talk to me because I care about Black people
People
and I
were
care about Black
mad
people's
at
voice.
me. People were mad at me.
They
I
was hot.
lost I lost friends on Facebook because I said that he wasn't wrong. And I
He
still
wasn't.
don't think he was wrong. I
Nope.
still, because him going to talk to the Republican Party with a plan for Black people, a written out plan for Black people, similar
Yep.
to how the Panthers had their 10-point plan. He had a
Hmm.
plan for Black people,
Yep.
and he was saying, I'm gonna go talk to them to see what they're gonna do on this plan. Now I get it.
Hmm.
I get the idea of we should know that we can trust them. We should know. And here's the other thing that just trips me out when people are like, oh, they're pandering, they're pandering. What do you think a political race is about?
It's all about. Do you think he liked that baby of yours that he kissed? He think it's ugly,
I
but
mean,
he know he got to kiss that baby.
it's all pandering. It is
All
all
of it.
pandering. It's like, did you not have in middle school and high school, did y'all not have, elections, which those were meant to try to help us understand the political process. We
Yep.
were supposed
Yep.
to learn from that. But those candidates in school, they pandered for your votes. They gave out candy in the hallway. They did
Hmm.
all these things. They made all these promises. Like, that is
No
what
promises
you
they had
do
control over at all, ever.
at all whatsoever. You go you
Hmm.
what you gonna make our classes shorter? You gonna give us longer hall times?
I'm gonna
Like,
make
what
sure we have
you know?
applesauce every Tuesday and
You know
Thursday.
what I'm
Oh, they come out, yeah. They don't
but
control the budget.
exactly.
Yeah,
But campaign promises are made. Is it
yeah.
fair? No. But that's the reality. People pander. They all pander. So when I
Mhm.
hear people say, "Oh, they're pandering for the black vote," you know what? Pander to me. But then I
Yeah,
want you to do what you said that you're going to do. But I'm okay if you want to
yeah,
come and bootleg. I'm okay if you want to say, "Oh, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that." Tell me what you're
yeah,
going to give me. But then my responsibility is to make sure that you do what it is that you said that you're going to do. Like,
yeah.
like Biden said that he was going to give us a black female VP. We are
And he did
expecting
it.
for him to give us a black female VP. And so he that was one promise that he kept. And so it's like we have to be better about putting pressure, and not just
Hmm.
pressure during election years. We have to
Hmm.
continue pressure all 4 years, all 8 years.
Yep.
If I put you in office, I'm going to pressure you.
Yeah.
But if you're not the person that I put in office, you don't care what I have to say anyway. You
Right.
don't
So my
care
pressure
about
don't
my
work.
thing. Yeah, you don't care about any of that. But it's like
Yeah.
we have a responsibility, and we forget that we have a responsibility outside of that vote that we do on November the 5th. We have other responsibility. If we
Yeah.
put Kamala in office, and she's made all of these promises of things that she's going to do, and she did have an agenda for black people. That's what people are missing too. She had an
Yep.
agenda that she spoke on the things that she wanted to do for black people.
Yep.
Not all of the candidates had an agenda for black people. If you ask Donald Trump what is his agenda for the black community, he won't have an agenda. I guarantee you
Yeah.
he doesn't have an agenda because he had 4 years to put that agenda into place and he did not.
Au contraire, he got some gold shoes.
Ah,
He
he pardoned he,
also
he pardoned Kodak Black. He did
he
that.
did.
Yeah,
He helped Lil Wayne get out of his situation.
he did do
You know
that.
what I
He
mean?
did that.
So
Mhm.
so don't say he
And,
didn't have
and he recently made Amber Rose a rapper.
a rapper and made her put some clothes on. Two things at the same time.
That's
You know
what
what
I'm
I mean?
talking about. Sometimes
So so don't
sometimes
tell
we go
me
we gonna let
Trump ain't
Trump
got nothing
cook.
to black folk. You know what
That's
I
what I'm
mean?
saying.
He
We
doing
gonna
his
let
thing
Trump
out there.
cook. He
He
did
doing
a
his
little
thing out there.
something. He did a little something.
Look,
Yeah.
so we
And
have
and,
to
and we can relate to him because he's a felon.
right, because you
Yeah.
know we all got those.
Right.
So so I like I need I need for us to leverage our vote instead
Right.
of instead of deciding
Giving
our
it.
vote, right?
Hmm.
We have to leverage our vote. The
And that's
Democrats
all
need
IQ
our
was
vote.
saying.
That's all he was saying. And Charlemagne the God.
Yeah.
When Sonny Hoskins, I used to have a little crush on Sonny Hoskins too. There's Latina, something about that, something about the accent. Just I grew up in Gary. We had Latinos all. It was something about the accent used to get me all the time. On top of her being chocolate, but she pissed me off. One, her going at Charlemagne's neck over him not wanting to endorse Biden. At what point do we stop giving our vote away based off of uh, this the
This
best
is
of the worst scenarios,
right.
right? Like
Right.
at least we not them. You can't get me with that 2 election cycles in a row. At some point, you have to actually do the things for me that you said that you were going to do. Now, if I need CP's vote, and CP tell me she needs a loaf of bread and a stick of butter, then no matter what else I do for everybody else, I'm gonna make sure I get that loaf of bread and stick of butter because I need CP's vote. I'm
And
not
I
gonna be
will
like,
and I will say, and I've said this before, that is one thing that Trump did very well.
yep. He
He
catered to his base. He gave
like
his base what they wanted.
every that they wanted. Like when he was talking about build the wall, and I was like,
He built that wall, made him pay for it too.
and the thing
He
about it
built the
is,
wall, made him pay for it.
and I think the thing about it is, I think sometimes this is my thing about Trump though, real talk. I think sometimes he says stuff and it's like, you remember those toys back in the day where you throw it on the wall and it sticks,
Yeah,
and sometimes it stick. I think that he says stuff just to see. if it'll stick. And then
Look,
I think even he, because Trump is not a fool.
yeah.
Let's
I
not.
wouldn't say
He's
he's not smart, but
foolish.
he's not a fool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's foolish, but he's not a fool. I don't think that he honestly always believes even the reaction that he gets
No.
from people.
He didn't even think he was going to win.
No,
He
because
didn't think he was going to win the presidency.
because he didn't ever want to build that wall, but he was
No.
like, well, now that I'm
He,
here,
I told him I was going to build a wall.
I told
So
him I was gonna
let's
build a
throw some stuff
wall,
up there.
so
He had no
I got to do
plan.
it.
He had no plan on how the wall was going to get built, how it was going to be financed. Like normally, if somebody said, like Obama came with Obamacare, okay, this is how we're going to pay for
Yep,
Obamacare.
and this is
Okay, cool.
yep.
We're going to build a wall. Okay, well, how are we going to build it? I'm going to make Mexico pay for it. Mexico's like, she.
Yeah, we're not gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
two
Mexican president
years,
was like,
two,
she.
2 years later.
Right, right. Right. And Trump made Americans pay for the wall that he look. This is the same dude who said, put some bleach under your skin, that'll kill COVID. Like that's something we working. Like he's not smart, but he's not a fool. So he
Yeah,
knows that if I need to shore up my base, I have to make sure that I give them, even if the stuff is stupid, I got to give them the thing that I told them I was
so I
going to
was
give them.
gonna give them.
So we overturned Roe v. Wade, and I'm going to take credit for it. That's what, even though the rest of the country doesn't like it, most of the country is against it. The evangelicals told me that's what they wanted, and that's what I did. So all the people who are tired of losing because their white supremacist or bigoted notions are becoming obsolete, and they're tired of being becoming obsolete. I can be this beacon of being mediocre and white and winning, and that's what he's drawn from. Now on the Democratic side, you actually have to come through with stuff that you promised. One thing at least. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you couldn't get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act bill, aka voting rights. You couldn't get George Floyd, aka police reform. You couldn't do none of that. So what did you expect from black people? Like, because you told us you needed us.
Right.
So then what did you expect from them after not delivering for them? And then you have people who are saying, well, he did these things that made life better for black people. No, it made life better for everybody.
Right.
But if you raise the tide, yes, you're raising black people's tide also, but we're still
At the
underneath
bottom.
water.
And
So
I think
raise us specifically.
I think the other thing that we have to remember is that, and this is also like part of my argument, and I feel like a lot of people need to go back to government class 101.
Yep.
There's the executive branch,
Mm-hmm.
and there's certain things that the executive branch is able and capable of doing based
Mm-hmm.
off of the privileges and the rights that the Constitution has given them. There's
Yep.
the legislative branch, and they have a responsibility and they have rules that they can do. And then you have the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a legislative body that is going to work with the president, there's only so much she can do. We saw that with
True.
Obama. Obama
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, because of Mitch McConnell's uh, 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 House, he wasn't able
Mm-hmm.
to appoint a Supreme Court justice, and he
Yep.
should have been. And that was the
Mm-hmm.
first time any other president, any other time, that would have been he would have been able to choose. But Mitch
Yep.
McConnell, that he knew the assignment for his party,
Yep. And
and he kept that from
he
happening.
executed. Yep.
Yeah.
He did
So it's
exactly what he was
like,
supposed to do.
so some of the stuff that we can't totally blame Biden and Kamala Harris on not passing for Black people because of who was in the House and who was in the Senate. So
Mm-hmm.
those bills passed the House because we had the numbers in the House.
Yep.
The
Mm-hmm.
Senate is a little bit more tricky than the House. So
Yeah.
while we definitely need to pay attention to what's happening in the executive branch, we also have to make sure that we have a supporting legislative body to help to get some of those things passed. Obama
Yeah.
had that the first 4 years. He
And they
had
still
that
didn't do nothing.
probably for the first 6 years.
Hmm.
He had it, and he made it good for Americans.
Yeah.
There were days
He,
passed for Americans,
I think
and
people forgot that he wanted universal health care at first. He didn't. He
yeah,
wasn't pushing for uh, uh, Obamacare, which was actually Romney care. He was pushing
right,
for universal health care.
right,
But
right.
the Democrats that were in the House and in the Senate were too scared to put their names on
And that's the thing. I feel like
universal.
Democrats do a lot of compromising. We do a lot of compromising with the
Unnecessarily.
other side. Yes, and uh and I misspoke when I said we because I am a registered independent, but I
Hmm.
have voted Democrat because right now the Democrats are the only ones that's making me as a woman feel like my rights are not going to be just taken up
They're the
under
only ones. They're the
me.
only ones listening. You
Yeah,
know, they
yeah,
at least
uh,
got the mic on.
yeah. And so, which that puts again when you talk about being having a choice, it puts me in a position of where I sometimes feel forced because the other side is so polarizing
Hmm.
that that I would not vote for them because if I vote for one of you and give you power, even if I like you, like I have a Republican friend who I think would be great in policy and that I would trust to make decisions and policies and laws that I do think that would be beneficial to me as a black person, as a black woman, and as a person. But
Yeah.
because if I vote for you, I give your
Vote for
party
all of
numbers
it. Yeah.
that will be detrimental. Like Romney was saying some smart stuff. He was saying some smart stuff. He was saying some good
Yeah.
stuff. But if we vote for you, how is this going to come back on us because you have the numbers and you have the Marjorie Taylor Greene
Yeah.
in there, make it you you
Yeah.
you give her
She's part
power.
of it. we
Yeah,
we have to we have to operate under the who all over there premise, right?
right.
Like because I can't just because you inviting me. Okay, cool. Well, who all gonna be there? Because if Martin
Yeah,
Taylor Green gonna be there, I ain't coming, right? Like if Mitch McConnell gonna, I ain't coming.
I can.
If what Gates, what's his first? I can't remember his first name. Uh, if Gates gonna be there, I ain't coming. Like because I have some Republican friends also who are there. One is rising in the ranks in the Republican Party, and we have conversations about different things. The problem that you run into when you're in the Republican Party is there's a plateau that you get to where you can no longer be the Michael Steele type of Republican. You have to be all in, and you have to drink the Kool-Aid or at least sell the Kool-Aid, and you have to be a slave to the party, and you can't have independent thought. And when you reach that level, then you lose all your credibility because when you're white, that works fine for you. But when you're
Hmm.
black, you can no longer care about black people. It's kind of like when you become a police officer. If you want to be successful in it, if you want to rise in the ranks, you cannot show any kind of allegiance towards black people, or else they're gonna get you up out of there. Because you have because we are considered the other, the enemy, right? And there's Republicans are there's Republicans and then there's Trump Republicans. And if you are a Republican, somebody um, who believes in fiscal conservatism, who is like a Christian and who does not believe in, making abortion be the same as getting like contraception. Okay, Like there, what you'll find is there are a lot of people who are not Republican who may agree with that. I have some conservative views also. I don't have all my views are not like liberal. A lot of them are conservative, or some of them are conservative. And I think that Republicans would, if they could ever get all the racism, not all of it, if they could ever get the racist nature of their party out, if they could somehow disalign themselves with like the Klan and white supremacists and the Proud Boys and all, if they could ever break away from the racism that they cleave to, they would probably get a whole bunch of black people to align themselves with the Republican Party. They probably would, but they can't break away from that racist nature because that's what the Southern strategy
But and when you
that
think about it, that's where the money is, right?
yeah yeah yeah
So
yeah
so
yeah
so
that's
so politics so
they sell
politics is
hatred.
all it's all about money. When you have uh and this is even something that like Fred Hampton was talking about is that and because and this is the reason why I definitely feel like he was murdered. Fred Hampton was trying to unite the working class
Mm-hmm.
and not just black working class, but white working class, and trying to help them to understand that like racism really is a poor man's game.
Right.
Racism, overt racism, that is a poor man's institution because at the very top 1%, they don't
Yeah.
care whether you black, white, or indifferent if you got money. If you got money
Yeah.
to be in that top 1%, they don't care. Now the top
Yep.
1%, they don't really care about who's in office
No.
because they gonna be the top 1% regardless of who is in office.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can control who is in office, because the way that the top 1% keeps to stay rich and stay the top 1% is if us lower ones, those lower what 95%, because then you got some middle range in there. If the rest
Yeah.
of us are arguing over these things, but we're still consuming, we're still
Mm-hmm.
doing things to make the top 1% rich, they want to keep the status quo and keep things the way that they are. And so
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that bothers me about what they used to call back in uh, uh, slave days, the low whites. If the low whites understood, y'all was out there in the heat with us. Y'all may have been the overseers on the horse, but they
Yeah.
the man he didn't care about you neither. He
Yeah.
didn't
You
care
wasn't
about
using the
you.
bathroom in the house.
Yeah, he was looking down on
Mm-hmm.
you too. So it's
Yep.
so it's like so that same principle still really applies. And there's
Yeah.
there's poor white people that think that the rich white people give a damn about them, and they don't. They
Yeah.
don't care about you. You keep
Yeah.
them rich by consuming. Even if you have your own business, you're still not in the top 1%. You may be doing
Mm-hmm.
okay, but you're still consuming and buying supplies and all these things from somebody that is in the top 1%. If you have your
Right.
own construction company, you're buying your lumber from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that money is going to that top 1%. So
Yep.
it's it's really actually saddening that like racism isn't good for anybody in
Yep.
the middle class area. It's not good for any of us. And I know like we've been talking for a while, so I know we're gonna have to do a part two because we didn't even get into black men and their and that I think it's like what they say like 13% of black men. Maybe the number's lower. Uh,
Um. Of
supporting Trump.
oh, I think it was what? It went from 12% to I think it was like 15% or something like that. But it's general. I think people misunderstand that the majority of black men vote along the same lines as black women do. Um,
And y'all
and so
showed out.
it's like,
Y'all,
yeah,
y'all showed out.
oh, yeah, we were doing our thing the other night when we had black men for black men
For Kamala,
Kamala. Yeah,
win with black men.
yeah, women with black men.
Yeah,
Raised 1.5 million
and it was 50
in
of
one
y'all
night.
on that John. There was 50 of y'all on
Yeah,
that call. Yep,
out. You know,
50,000.
not that we comparing, but outdid the women in one day. You know what I'm saying? But
No,
we needed to.
no.
We
Y'all was
did. We
short.
did.
Y'all was
No,
actually 1.3 million. We was
I think we need to.
1.5 million.
I
You
think
got them
that's
numbers
reversed.
mixed up.
I think it's flipped.
No,
We're gonna have to check
no,
on that. We're
no.
gonna have to check on that. I think it's got flipped.
Yeah,
But
I say.
either way, it needed to happen because this narrative that black men won't support a black woman president needs to be deaded. Then you're gonna have your hotel brothers who
Mhm,
swear that they love black people but hate black women,
mhm,
and
mhm.
they gonna be on some we can't vote for Kamala type stuff, and then you're gonna have some foundational black Americans who didn't want to vote for Obama, so they sure ain't gonna vote for Kamala either.
Right. If
Um,
you're not black.
but yeah, because she's not black. She's she's not a African American descendant of
Yeah,
slavery.
yeah.
So and listen, no disrespect to that because I believe there is some merit when
That
it
is
comes
definitely.
to the difference
It's different.
between
It's a different experience.
right. So and we have different needs
Hmm.
than people who are children of immigrants. But um, at some point, after some degree of separation from the immigration, their needs and their desires align with ours, and we have to acknowledge that because when police pull them over, and when they shoot them, they're not looking to see whether they are the third generation of an immigrant or not. They
Right.
black.
Yep.
Um, and to that, let's segue into Sonia Massey. I'm saying the right name right?
Yep.
Sonia
Sonya
Massey.
Massey,
Okay.
36-year-old
You
Sonya Massey.
okay? Do you want to tell the people about her and what happened in that situation?
So, uh, Sonya Massey called the police, which I hate hearing these stories of when we actually call for help and end up unalived. But she called the police um, because she thought that there was a prowler or someone trying to break into her home or her had gotten into her home.
Hmm.
Police arrived on the scene. They walked the perimeter, didn't find anything, and then they came into the house. Um, she's sitting on the couch. They asked to see her ID. She's trying to get her ID. And then one of the other officers, so it's two officers in the house. One officer says, "Hey, there's the pot is the flames on the pot. We don't want the house to catch on fire." And she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let me get that." So she gets up to go and
Sean Grayson was that officer.
yeah,
Hmm.
she gets up to go turn off the pot, and so she goes to pour out the hot water. So like seconds, within seconds, they're laughing and joking about this water in this pot, and about not wanting to catch on fire. And then she says, as she's pouring the water out of the pot, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Okay. Let's
And then
pause there. Just to give people context. So she had the pot of hot water. Sean Grayson was in the kitchen when she pulled it off of the stove. And when she goes over to the sink to put the pot down, he steps out of the kitchen and she asks him, "Why did you move back like that?" Like both of the officers actually moved back because
yeah,
once Sean moved back, the other officer moved back, and she was like, "Why'd y'all move back like that?" And Sean Grayson said, "Well, because you have that pot of hot water," already assuming that he was in some kind of jeopardy when she's actually the one
and
who called
so and so let me say this: he was actually on the other side of there was like a counter.
the
He
divider.
was
Yep.
on the other side of the counter. The one officer who did not shoot was closer to the entrance to the kitchen, kind of like an open kitchen where there's just the like little counter
Yeah.
pulled out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They asked her to go and turn off this pot.
Yep.
But their officer that was standing there, he could have said, "Hey, do you mind if I see this fire, this pot boiling situation? Do you mind if I turn this off?" He could have went over there and turned it off, and she would have
Yep.
still been sitting on the couch looking for her ID. She wouldn't have been gone into the kitchen if it was a
Yeah.
threat of something in this pot is going to cause my demise as a human and put my life
Yeah.
in threat. It's like I heard one person say, it's like they said, "Hey, pick up that knife." She picked up the knife, and then they shoot her for picking up the knife.
Yeah. That's
Um,
exactly.
so she goes in. She says, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, and he says, "You better fucking not. I'll shoot you in your fucking face." And she's like, "What?" She's like, "I'm sorry." They pulled their weapon. She's like, "What?" And then he's like, "Put it down." She bends down to put the pot down. And like she's like standing up. And I'm pretty sure she's scared out of her mind because you have guns pointing at you now. And he proceeds to shoot her in her face as he had stated that he would. Um, then you hear continued conversation as she's laying on the floor, bleeding
Dead.
out.
Yeah.
The one officer that did not shoot says, "I'm going to go get my kid." The officer that shot her says, "There's no point in you getting your kid. She's gone. There was a headshot. She's gone."
Yeah. Sean
It was,
Grayson was the officer that shot.
yes.
So not the other officer.
And this was his sixth precinct that he had worked
In 4 years.
in 4 years. Um, and he says, "Well, I didn't want her to throw hot water on. I didn't want her to throw boiling water on me. One, you didn't see what was in the pot, so you just assumed there was boiling water. There's that. Uh, Saying that I rebuke you in the name of Jesus does not mean that somebody's going to throw hot water on you. If you've been black and you've been black in the church, your grandma probably done told you that she will rebuke you in the name of Jesus one or two times because she was acting a fool and acting up, and she said she was going to
Mm-hmm.
rebuke you, but she wasn't going to throw hot water on you. She wasn't going to throw water on you. It was that's maybe some anointing oil, but
Yeah.
she wasn't going to throw water. It wasn't
Come
a
on.
it wasn't a baptism. We just
Who
we say that.
who responds when somebody, because white
A
people
demon, a
will say,
demon,
who responds with "you better not" when somebody says "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus" other
a
than a
demon,
demon? who
a
who
demon.
responds to that? Like, how is that an insult that's worthy of you, one, cussing at her and pulling your gun when they say "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," unless you got some
Something just
demonic forces working on you anyway.
and it's I'm just gonna make a quick joke here, but it's not a joke. But like, remember
Mm-hmm.
when that man was in the town and he was possessed by all of those demons, and Jesus said, "Well, what's the name?"
Legion.
And he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Legion." And Legion said, "Well, if you're gonna cast us out, put us in
Mm-hmm.
those pigs."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that demon, one of them pigs,
He's in one
was
of them
one of them
pigs.
pig was was
One.
one of the pigs that shot her in cold blood, and he deserves to be in jail for the rest of his natural life. And he is the type of police officer that Donald Trump wants to have immunity for their crimes.
Mm-hmm. Donald
Donald
Trump wants
Trump
to give
says
immunity
immunity, immunity to police
no
officers,
matter what they do.
no matter what they do, and that is in the George Floyd Act that Kamala Harris co-authored.
Mm-hmm.
One of the lines, one of the parts of that act is that there is no immunity for police officers if they
Yeah.
are guilty of a crime. There's no immunity for that. And then
Yeah.
there's a line that says that there's a change from uh, uh, being willful to being knowing and reckless.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's as far as what the law is looking for when it comes to prosecuting police officers for their crimes. When
Yeah.
it comes to the unaliving of a black person disproportionately,
Yeah.
it's no longer a matter of willfulness. It's, did you know that there was a threat? Did you actually know that there was? Were you reckless in your decision? And so we need for that to be the case, because I'm not saying that every police officer that has unalived a black person walked out of the house that day saying, I'm going to unalive a black person. But they were reckless. They were reckless in their job on that day, and they unalived a black person. And if you have a job that puts you in constant fear every single day, you probably shouldn't have that job. That is just
Yeah.
my opinion. I have friends that are Leos that I love and respect highly, but I still stand on, I understand policing is not easy. I never said it was, but that's why I'm not a cop. I never said I wouldn't be afraid of being out on these streets because it's dangerous out there. I would be terrified. That is also why I'm not a cop. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to say that every time I pull the car over, I probably wouldn't want to put my hand on my gun because people are crazy. But that's why I'm not a cop. I am fully aware of all of my fears,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I am not a cop.
Yeah.
So when
Everybody
you mix
was.
that with bias,
Mm-hmm. Everybody was not meant to be a police officer,
no,
right? I've had this conversation with a lot of people, especially during the Laquan McDonald trial. For those of you who don't remember, Laquan McDonald was a young man who was going through a mental episode in Chicago. He was surrounded by police officers during that episode. He had a knife in his hand. He made a move to run, and he was shot, I don't know how many times, by a police officer. He was shot so much by one police officer that he emptied his clip and was trying to insert another clip to shoot him some more. If you watch the video, he was on the ground dead while bullets were still raining into his body. Um, Rahm Emanuel was the mayor of
there,
Chicago at the time, and he held the video for a year because he was going through a reelection campaign and didn't want the smoke from the execution of Laquan McDonald. I was actually trying to holler at this police officer at the time. I was trying to get my Lil Wayne on and holler at this little cute police officer that worked up there. But when that happened, I was talking a little too crazy about the police department because it wasn't just the murder; it was the cover up also that they did, the destruction of evidence also that they did. It's everybody's not meant to be a police officer. You know, like they say, get out the crowd if you're scared. You know what I'm saying? If this isn't for you, getting a gun and getting more power isn't supposed to compensate for the fear that you have. If you ask me, what would I do if I'm in a dark alley and somebody jumps out on me? I'm probably going to shoot everybody, including myself. That's why I'm not
right.
a police officer.
That's why
That
I'm not a police
I
officer.
that's not my lot in life. But if I'm trained to de-escalate, I would prefer to de-escalate than to end somebody's life. And the fact that there's no effort made to de-escalate, even especially in the case of Sonia Massey, there was no effort to de-escalate. Police
And,
officers have a
and
gun
there
on
was
one
nothing
hip.
to, and there was nothing to de-escalate because there
When
was a
somebody says
non-issue.
Jesus, yeah, she called you out there, so that already should put your
Put
anxiety
this
at
down.
like a one. Because if she's needing your help, then the odds of her being aggressive towards you, especially when she has her silk pajamas on and her headscarf on, the odds of her being aggressive towards you is nil to none. So you shouldn't be in an aggressive state anyway. Secondly, there was no attempt made to grab the stun gun and to stun this woman. It went straight to
And,
lethal
and,
measure.
and let's be honest here. He was on the other side of this long counter.
Yeah, far away from him.
If she would have thrown water, all he had to do was step back. All he had to do was run back. There would have been a natural reflex
But what would have been the
of
motivation?
anybody.
Like psychologically, what would have even been the motivation to throw hot water? Like
None. And
they
again,
weren't in an aggressive state.
we don't even know what was in the pot. I don't recall hearing her say, "Oh, that's just water," or "Oh, that's just whatever." I don't remember
Yeah,
anything being said about what was actually in the pot.
right.
But, and if water is boiling over a period of time, it also starts to uh uh dehydrate
Evaporate.
or evaporate. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it how much water could have really been?
Yeah,
She was
but
not, ultimately, the thing is, she was not a threat.
she was
She was
not a threat
not
at
a threat.
all. There was no reason to even believe that she might have been a threat. Like there was
Yes,
no reason to
none.
think
She
that
wasn't
she would be
erratic when
going
she
from
came. She wasn't
nope.
belligerent. She wasn't
She wasn't angry,
disrespectful.
wasn't loud, nothing.
She
So
even told them, I was scared. She said she was scared when they came.
yeah,
That wasn't part of the report. She said, "I'm sorry." When he pulled out the gun, he said, "I'm sorry." She said, "Put the gun down." She put the pot down. She put the pot down. She was scared, and
she
he
started
still.
the whole interaction when they first got there by saying, "Please don't hurt me." That was how she greeted the police officers.
Yes.
Please don't hurt me. So there was no reason for him to be aggressive. There was no reason for him to be angry, and there was no reason for him to believe his life was in danger. And
There was no
if
need for
your
him to
life,
use a surface weapon.
if you don't no, if you don't believe that your life is in danger, then there's no reason for you to pull your gun. Like death should not be the end result of you being afraid for whatever reason, or the end result of every interaction that makes you uncomfortable. That's why they give you a taser. That's why you're big as hell. He's like what 6'4". He looked like he's about six
She was
four,
little. She was little.
very tiny black woman with like I said, her silk pajamas on, silk nightgown, and a headscarf on. That is not battle attire. There's unless you part of her family, that is not battle attire for a black woman to wear. That's her getting ready for bed when the scarf is on. But so for you to feel that way is you having an inherent bias. And this is so what we were talking about before. Whenever these rules are made, like Trump wanting to give police officers immunity for everything that they do, what they do is they ignore the fact that we have racism and bias built into certain institutions, namely the policing institution or law enforcement. Bias and racism is built into law enforcement. So when they show up to a black house in a black community, they tend to be more aggressive than when they show up to a white house in a white community. That's implicit bias. The only way to combat implicit bias is for you to attach repercussions for lack of professionalism or bad behavior. Because
Which is
I may
all
not be
in the
able,
George Floyd Act.
which Kamala Harris co-authored. There is you cannot make somebody not be racist, but you
Right.
can make them not perform racist acts,
Right.
and that's
And
the
give them
that's the
power
best
behind
that we
it.
can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and
So
and the thing is, I wish that police officers, when you have this whole conversations about good seed and bad seed, bad apples, good apples, bad apples, if police officers don't want to become the target of anger and outrage and dislike and not to be trusted, because again, I have Leos that I do actually love. I have friends that are police officers, who I respect greatly, who I don't feel like will ever show up in one of these news that they have unalived. They genuinely are in the service to the people. They are police officers because they believe in the badge, they believe in the work that they do, and they really honestly do good things for and in the community.
Mm-hmm.
But until those police officers who are that way say, I also support the George Floyd Act. I
Mm-hmm.
also support these different initiatives to uh, like one of the things that's in the George Floyd Act is to have a police registry that if you have been had so many complaints, all of that shows up. So you can't go from precinct to precinct to precinct to precinct and get
Yeah.
hired because that's going to
Yeah.
come up. And if you have those marks on you, you're out. We're not. So until those police officers that are like, it's not all of us, it's them, until they start to stand up and say we need to have police reform, we have to have change. I do see this issue needs until that happens, we have no choice but to lump things because it's a fear. And I think it might have been Malcolm X that talked about like uh and I'm going to misquote, so I'll just say the story this way. There are some snakes that are not poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
There are some snakes that will not kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not well versed on snakes. I don't know
You're not a
which
snake
snakes are
wrangler,
gonna
is
kill
what
me.
you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what snakes are
Mm-hmm.
poisonous. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what snakes. I can identify it. When I see a snake, all I see is a snake. And since I know that there are some that can be venomous and to kill me and to hurt me, I have to treat all snakes the same until I am made aware that that particular snake won't hurt me. I know a garden snake is not going to hurt me. That I can identify. But copperheads, king
Mm-hmm.
cobras, all of them,
Yep.
bull I don't know. So I have to go in with the knowledge that I do have, and I have to have the wisdom to say, I don't mess with snakes. I
Yeah.
don't deal with snakes. So if you got
Out
a
of
snake in your
self-preservation.
house, I'm probably not gonna come to your house because I don't deal with snakes.
Right. And that's common sense for black people, especially if it seems like black people are targeted by the snakes, right? We have to be wise. That's why I can't take um, any conservative or any black Trump supporter seriously, because if you live in this country and you say that one, this isn't a racist country, or two, um, like Candace Owens said, racism was over with until Barack Obama got into office. Or if you say there's no such thing as systemic racism, then what that tells me is that you desire to be so close to whiteness that your integrity is for sale. There's police officers who know that there are bad cops who are overly aggressive and treat one race of people worse than they treat others, and they know it. They still work with them. They're still Those officers are still allowed to work on the force. Um, it's not like we don't have people who are in the military who who have bias. But the thing that they do in the military is they prevent you from being able to operate um, with autonomy. There's somebody that you have to answer to. We sent you for this mission. If you operate outside of this mission and you didn't have a good reason to operate outside that mission, you're going to be court-martialed. If just because you don't like um, um, Arab people, if you go over there and start killing Arab people, you're going to jail. And
Mm-hmm.
there's not going to be soldiers around you that's going to be like, oh well, they jumped out on them. You know, how would you feel if no, you were trained to do this.
Right.
There's very little excuse for you to not execute this the way that we taught you to. That's why officers who are ex-military tend to be better officers than officers that did not come from the military. But this dude, come to find out, Sean Grayson, let me read a little bit about him. The Sangamon County Sheriff's deputy charged with the murder after he shot Sonia Massey in her apartment while she wielded only a pot of water, worked 6 law enforcement jobs over the past 4 years,
4 years.
pleaded guilty to 2 charges of driving under the influence, and was discharged from the Army for serious misconduct. He couldn't even make it in the Army, but he could make it in law enforcement.
And
That's
we're
why
not
we
even
need a,
I was gonna say
huh?
we're not even gonna mention that some of the training practices of some of the police officers have been done by the Israel defense officers. Was it the
Mm-hmm.
IOF?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And we already know how they run.
This is the reason why, um, it as a black person, it makes more sense for you um, to cast your vote with Kamala Harris than it does for you to cast your vote for Donald Trump. If for no other
Based on
reason,
that alone.
self-preservation.
Yep.
If for no other reason, self-preservation. Police officers given unfettered um, uh, job responsibility where they could kill whoever they want to and they're never held accountable. Keep in mind how we operate now, where if a police officer were to kill somebody, and then the family of the person who was unalive then sues, gets a settlement, the city pays for that.
Right. Right.
So if they live in that city, their own tax dollars are paying for the murder of their child. While
Mm-hmm.
the police officer's pension isn't touched, while
Nope.
that police officer personal savings isn't touched at all, into qualified immunity is the only way to prevent officer misconduct. And also a police registry, because if you or I commit a crime in Indiana or in Carolina or in wherever, and we
It
go to
follows you.
California, we got to, that crime follows us wherever we go. But police
Mm-hmm.
officers have actively, the police officers union has actively fought against a police officer registry so that
Registry.
police
Mm-hmm.
officers can continue to to have
Move
misconduct
around.
in other.
Because how many
Yeah,
times does this happen? How many times does
right.
that happen? The officer that unalived uh, uh, Mike Brown,
Yeah,
he had been at a few different precincts, and then went on to a
yeah,
different precinct after the like we don't know you, but anyway, but like
yeah,
yeah, um,
hmm, yeah,
until these things come into place, you cannot tell me that you have my best interest at heart. And the moment
yeah,
that Donald Trump stood on stage and said that he wanted immunity for all police officers, I that is furthermore telling me that you do not have my interest at heart. So when you
yeah,
talk about like memes where I've seen where they're like, oh, don't let 2 men that don't even know your name uh help you to or be a reason that you end a friendship. No, that's not why I'm ending the friendship. I'm ending the friendship because you are actively choosing to vote for a man who said that police should get immunity for their crimes,
yeah,
and those crimes that he can only be speaking of is the unaliving of black people, because that's the conversation.
yeah,
That's the conversation. We're not talking about police officers that are stealing stuff while they're on the job. No, the conversation is specifically about the police brutality and the unaliving of black people, of unarmed black people specifically, at the hands of police. That's the
yeah,
conversation. So that's what you want them
yeah.
to have immunity from.
We have to leverage our vote for our own self-interest and for our own survival. And anybody who is voting for somebody who, like, racism is an ism. It's a system, right?
Right.
So that means that there has to be things that operate in order to uh, make it the system. So if you subjugate a group using authority or power that you have based off of their race, then you are a racist and you have displayed racism. Out of the two candidates that are running for president right now, which person has used their position to subjugate a group of people based specifically on their race? That would be Donald J. Trump, who had to be sued twice for
For
not
housing
renting
construction.
property,
Hmm.
yeah, to black people. That is that is based on race. That is contributing to racism. That makes him a racist. Not to mention him believing that even after the exonerated five were exonerated and cleared
And
of
never
all charges,
didn't apologize.
never apologized and said that they should stay locked up because they probably did something. Only a racist would say that. Now, I've had people challenge me and ask me, well, how is Donald Trump racist? Those two examples right there are how he's racist. Now, you can't say the same about Kamala being racist. You could have you made arguments about Joe Biden and his racial apathy. And he's had racial apathy, like just about every other white man that ever graced the halls of Congress, except for a very, very few. But now we're talking about Kamala Harris versus uh, John or Donald Trump, and I don't see the benefit for Black people, either financially or just uh, uh, period, to vote for Donald Trump. I don't see the benefit there.
And my thing is, if it's about the economy, that's because that's what they just want to keep saying. I'm a vote for him because of the economy, because of the economy, because
Mhm.
of the economy. He can't pass policies on his own. He needs the representatives to be able to pass policies. So if you still want a good economy, you don't have to vote for Donald Trump in order to have a good economy. You can still vote for your local representatives and still be able to push them to pass legislations and policies to bolster a good economy. That can happen regardless of Donald Trump. We had it with Obama. We
Yeah.
had a good economy under Obama.
Yeah.
Uh, Donald Trump was handed a good economy.
Yep.
Obama was handed a shit economy.
Yep.
Donald Trump dropped the ball. And a lot of the residual effects, because people don't understand policies
Yeah.
take time,
2 to 3 years
two
before
to
you even
three
see the
years.
beginning of it. Yeah.
So Obama was in for 8 years. So we've seen the effects of his
Hmm.
policies. And we still, even in a couple of years of Donald Trump's presidency, still see the effects of Obama's policies. And if you listen to any of his addresses or anything like that, when Obama would say, we're doing this, we got this passed, this is what's going to happen over the next 10 years. This is what's going to happen over the next 9 years. This is what's going to happen over the next 5 years. This is what's going to happen over the next 15 years. That's because policies take time.
Mm.
So the first year or two, he was still riding off Obama policies as far as the economy is concerned. Then COVID hit. Like you said, he was slow to act, he was slow to move, and boom, it set us in the spiral. There was no policy that he put into place in that time period to reignite the economy, even when it comes down to the stimulus checks. That was something that Congress did.
Yep.
That was something that
Mhm.
Congress created. He just wanted to sign the checks. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, I didn't even get a check. I got a direct deposit. So I didn't even see that fool's name. So
I don't think I got any of them.
if you got a physical check, that tells me all I need to know about you, because why don't you have a bank account? So you took your stimulus check to the cash check
That's
clearing.
checking the cash. They sure
So
did.
so ultimately what I'm saying is that all the great things economically that they said Donald Trump did is not even attributed to Donald Trump, because the policies hadn't even hit yet.
No.
They
And
haven't they haven't hit yet.
even if you are talking about
They're
you'll
hitting
vote for Donald
now.
Trump, yeah. Even if they're saying you're voting for Donald Trump because you believe that he's better on the economy, how are you going to spend the money that you would get from this boost in economy if you did? You know what I mean? Like, because that's because if you're going to give immunity to police officers, do you think that's going to make them less likely to kill black folks? So I hope with the boost that you get with the better economy that you pay up some life insurance so at least your family can have a little something because
But
you ain't gonna be around
they don't pay for life insurance because they got to have a GoFundMe to get buried.
because they cashing their stimmies at the check cashing place. Let's get out of here. Well, here's we gotta definitely do this again.
Yeah, we got,
And
because
maybe
we still got to touch on more of Kamala Harris and her policies and the things that
yeah,
she's passed, because people should make informed voting decisions.
yeah,
And that's ultimately what we really wanted to kind of, we did go on a lot of tangents discussing a lot of different things tonight, but like ultimately as we go through and continue to have these conversations, we do want to provide information for people to make informed decisions,
yes,
informed voting decisions. And we
yeah,
cannot afford to make decisions based off of our emotions. Emotions will say, I don't want to vote for them because of X, Y, or Z reasons, because and all those reasons are valid.
yeah,
They are valid, but we also have to look at the bigger picture when we look at what is also at stake. What is really on the ballot come November? It's not just Kamala Harris and it's not just Donald Trump. It is all of their policies, their ideas, and their thoughts, and how they can affect all of us overall.
yeah,
That man also wants to get rid of the Department of Education. You get rid of the Department of Education, you also get rid of some of the benefits that go to low socioeconomic areas in public schools and
yeah,
HBCUs.
yeah,
So
yeah.
these are things
So
that you
that's
have
what
to think about and consider. So this is what we want to continue to have these conversations so that we can help people to make informed decisions.
yeah. When we come back next week, let's get more into policy of what both candidates are presenting as far as policy is concerned. And we'll provide links for people to actually read themselves because I'm a big advocate of don't believe me, read it for yourself. That way you can't say, well, Mark said. No, Mark directed you to this website where you can read it for yourself. So we'll do that and we'll continue to have these conversations. We'll try and make this stuff make sense for people who aren't as engrossed in politics as we are. We just happen to be people that love it and are into it. So, but tell people where they can connect with you on your socials.
So, so I only accept friends to my personal Facebook page, and that's because I get real and raw, and I don't need any trolls. But, however, I have recently started a group called Sisters for Kamala, and it is for women of the diaspora. Um, we have over 1,000 members just within the last 72 hours. So, if that gives you any kind of idea about what's behind Kamala Harris. There is a legion of black women that are ready to be mobilized and to get organized. And because of that alone, the level of passion that I have seen from these women, and a lot of women saying, "I this is my first time even dealing with politics, and I'm ready to go." That is also energizing to me because people are now back in the game. You
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah,
They are back in the game.
Yeah.
If you are a black woman, you can definitely reach me there. And also, lastly, I do want to also say this is something we'll touch base on. The Gen Z population is going to show up with Kamala. So you have a lot of
Yep.
new 18-year-olds that'll be voting. And not just even 18-year-olds, you're going to have a lot of new voters
Hmm.
that are going to be coming in November. And they have been polled and they will be voting for Kamala.
Yeah, definitely. We keep in mind that the more people that vote, the more it tends to be a Democratic win. So that's why you see efforts on the other side to restrict the vote and stuff like that. Yeah, the Gen Zs are coming, definitely. And they are not digging Donald Trump, um, just for y'all to know. Me, I accept all the smoke on all my platforms. Come get some of this. You know what I mean? Because I look, my family already know. You know, they're prepared. You know, my friends know too. So the Mark B on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, uh, Snapchat. I got a well, yeah, Snapchat, yeah, but
You got a
on TikTok.
Snapchat?
I do got a Snapchat. Don't hate on me. You know what I mean? I like to hold on to stuff. Okay. I don't let it go unless I need.
Leave
But
Snapchat alone. Snapchat.
nah, I like
They
Snapchat.
want a
Every once in a
baby.
while. Nah. Every once in a while they got some they got good filters on there. TikTok, you can catch me on there. So yeah. Also fan base. Shout out to Isaac Hayes' son for creating a black platform, social media platform. You can hit me up on fan base too, because why not? Why
Right.
not go ahead and up that too? So yeah, if you anybody wanting to discuss or debate, here's the only thing that I say. I will be as respectful as you are, or as disrespectful as you are. So pick your poison. We can have conversations or we can play the dozen, one of the two, either way. All right. But we'll be doing this a lot more. We'll be because I'm all the way in on Kamala right now. I'm all the way in. I'm one of those anybody but Trump people. I couldn't do it with Biden, so I was thinking about going third party. CP was on me about my third party voting. I'm like, I can't do it. But now I'm all in. I'm 100%. The Democrats got me now. So we want to just have these conversations so that we can cut through some of the BS that people will be hearing, right? Because there's information out there. It's a lot of information. There's a lot of bad actors that want you to stay uninformed and want you to stay confused and want you to feel like it's just so much stuff that you don't have an opportunity to really know anything. They depend on you to be lazy and they're dependent on you to make emotional and stupid decisions. And we want to kind of bring information to you and bring perspective to you and then show you where we got it from so that you can be informed also. So you all have
Absolutely. A good
awesome
evening.
evening.
All three of
Yep.
you that watched, I'm joking.
Yep.
But,
That's
and
right.
hopefully next time we can have some engagement and answer some questions. So,
Yeah, that'll be great. We'll bring other people in too. So, all right. Yeah, have a good night.
bye. Did you stop the recording?
Fine too. This this is why
Okay.
we rookies in this game. Yeah. Oh, there it is. But I don't want to leave.